Anti-gun folks will say that guns rarely get used for home or self-defense, though we all know from the statistics that that just is not true. And today, I have an incredible story of self-defense, where an 85-year-old woman saved herself and her disabled son despite being beaten, shot, and handcuffed to a chair. If you're looking for a hero story, this is it. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This incident happened back on March 13th, but we didn't get very many details until the incident report with the prosecutor's office came out a couple of days ago. Thankfully, Idaho does have stand your ground laws, but even if they didn't, I can't imagine anyone willing to prosecute an 85-year-old woman for shooting a man who had handcuffed her to a chair and was threatening to murder her. Even in his statement, Bingham County, Idaho prosecuting attorney Ryan Jolie said, "This case presents an easy analysis of self-defense and justifiable homicide. It also presents one of the most heroic acts of self-preservation I have heard of." The woman in question is Christine Janian, who I'm going to call Christine for the rest of the video, not out of any disrespect, but just so that I don't have to keep stopping and practicing saying her last name when I have an upset toddler downstairs. But before I tell you about her amazing story, this video is brought to you by the Attorneys on Retainer program. You don't have to follow the daily news to know how important it is to have a lawyer on your side when it comes to anything related to firearms. We also know from a couple high-profile cases that even with self-defense insurance, a lawyer isn't exactly guaranteed. But the Attorneys on Retainer program is not backed by an insurance company. The Attorneys for Freedom is a real law firm passionate about the Second Amendment, and their program is literally there for you to retain legal counsel rather than rely on an insurance company and their fine print. Attorneys on Retainer has you covered for misdemeanors, felonies, appeals, and even bail bonds. It doesn't even matter if you were in a gun-free zone or it was a bad shoot. Unlike insurance companies, their only requirements are that the incident happened after purchasing coverage and that you reasonably acted in good faith. Also, unlike insurance companies, their emergency hotline connects you directly to an attorney, getting legal advice instantly and exactly when you need it. So switch over from your existing self-defense coverage and head on over to my link down in the description where you can use code LibertyDoll to get $50 off your sign up. Now back to Miss Christine. According to police and state documents, she was asleep in her bed around 2 a.m. on March 13th when she was woken up by a pistol whip to the head by 39-year-old Derek Condon, who was sporting a military jacket, ski mask, and a 9mm. He hauled her out of bed and into the living room where he handcuffed her to a chair and demanded to know where the valuables were. At this point, he also put his gun to her head for added effect. She told him that she didn't have much, but that there were 2 safes downstairs. And while the home invader went to check them out, she dragged her chair all the way back to her bedroom, where she got the .357 Magnum that she kept hidden under her pillow, then dragged her chair all the way back where she hid the gun in the couch cushions next to the chair. Again, still handcuffed and after being pistol whipped at least once. At this point, Condon realized her disabled son was home and came back upstairs to yell at her for not telling him. He threatened to kill her and kept going through the home, ransacking what he could. Christine's memory as to when the rest played out was fuzzy, for obvious reasons, but at one point, after another threat, she told police she decided it was now or never. She whipped out the gun and shot twice, hitting him with both shots right in the chest. He returned fire and emptied his gun, hitting her multiple times in the arm, leg, belly, and chest. Condon made it out to the kitchen where he eventually passed away from his injuries, but Christine was still handcuffed to the chair and bled out on the floor for 10 hours before her disabled son made it upstairs and gave her a phone so she could call 911 herself. Christine miraculously survived through a nearly month-long investigation by the state to determine the homicide was justified. Had Condon lived, Jolie said that he would have been charged with felony attempted murder, kidnapping, burglary, aggravated battery, and grand theft. Now, Idaho law is pretty clear when it comes to self-defense. There's no duty to retreat. Lethal force is totally justifiable so long as the person believes it's necessary to protect themselves and their loved ones. In his review, Jolie wrote, "No person in this state shall be placed in legal jeopardy of any kind whatsoever for protecting himself, and that an individual acting in self-defense is not required to wait until he or she ascertains whether the danger is apparent or real. Any reasonable person would believe it necessary to defend themselves or their disabled child under such circumstances," which is a nice, refreshing change of pace. Certainly, there would not have been time for her to wait for police. We don't know what disability her son has, and frankly, it's none of our business. But if he wasn't able to call 911 himself after she was shot, it seems unlikely that he could have called the police himself beforehand. Even if he had, Christine lives in a rural area where neighbors are distant and you can't assume the cops are just down the road. According to East Idaho News, Condon also lived in the same town and he and Christine knew each other. Police don't believe it was random and think that he likely thought both Christine and her son would have been easy, helpless targets. And honestly, if it weren't for her grit, determination, and that .357 Magnum, he would have been right. That is it for this video, guys. I thought that this story would be the nice little heroic tale of good deeds that we all needed today. So, in the spirit of that, please do all of the algorithm things. You know what they are. I don't have to tell you. And as always, thanks for tuning in and happy shooting.